We are ranking the top 30 running backs in fantasy football today. It is fantasy season, so we've got to get you these guys and tell you who to prioritize in your fantasy football drafts. Do us a huge favor. Before we get started, make sure you like the video and make sure if you play fantasy football that you're subscribed, because we're going to be bringing you fantasy football content in season to help you win your leagues. And speaking of winning your leagues, flockfantasy.com/domain has all the resources, rankings, articles, research, databases. You get Discord. You can be in DMs with us. All the resources you need to kill your fantasy drafts and your fantasy leagues. Flockfantasy.com/domain. Code domain gets you 30% off. And all of our exclusives, that's where you want to be to hang out with us this season. And starting in the S tier is going to be Christian McCaffrey. And Christian McCaffrey currently in fantasy leagues, typically going in the first 2 or 3 picks. And that's very appropriate for him. Christian McCaffrey is in an elite offense. He's still the best playmaking running back in the NFL. Even over Austin Eckler, who has shown that he is also elite at this. Christian McCaffrey is just generational talent-wise when you're talking about playmaking for the running back position. He's going to get you the receptions and the receiving yards, and he's also going to continue to produce on the ground and have a very high touchdown rate. So with Christian McCaffrey, expect nothing but elite production from him this season, and I would definitely be drafting him as high as you can in fantasy drafts.
Yeah, and the A tier here is going to be Austin Eckler, and we're huge fans of him, but the reason he's not going to be in the S tier is because we honestly don't anticipate him being the RB1 overall this season. I think there's even some guys behind him that may even have that ceiling, but Eckler with his target share and the amount of receptions that he gets consistently every single year, when you're looking at PPR leagues and fantasy specifically, you cannot be happier getting a guy like Austin Eckler. 127 targets last season, 107 receptions for 722 yards. Like this is a wide receiver playing running back, so you get the rushing benefit plus he's a receiver. Like it's unreal. So yes, it's going to be a little bit of a different offense going into the season. I think you're going to see Herbert taking a lot more shots downfield, but that security blanket in Austin Eckler is absolutely invaluable, and they're not going to stop utilizing him at all. So next guy is going to be Bijan Robinson. And I mean, you could not ask for a better situation. The Atlanta Falcons ran the ball 559 times last year, and now you throw Bijan into there, who's an elite level talent, elite level prospect going into the NFL, drafted 8th overall this season. Like, you've got to be ecstatic. The reason we don't have him, honestly, in the S tier at running back 1 overall is just because he's a rookie, and he has yet to prove what he can do. It's not concrete. It's not for sure yet, so we're going to be conservative with his ranking, but you honestly could rank him as high as 1st overall. Jonathan Taylor is going to be in the A tier, and we're not buying the let's short Jonathan Taylor and not draft him.
Oh crap.
He's going to play, whether it's on the Colts or somewhere else. He is going to play. It does not benefit him in any way to sit out this season, and he can be a poopy pants and wear his hoodie and frown the whole time during training camp. I mean, I can do it too. We're both going to do it. And honestly, I don't care. I can be grumpy. I can be grumpy, but I'm still going to record these videos, and I'm going to keep doing it every single week for you guys, and so is he. So Jonathan Taylor is going to play this year. We know what we don't have to tell you what he did 2 years ago. We don't.
BT or Saquon Barkley. Saquon, back with the Giants on a 1-year deal. Expect him. He is looking to help the Giants contend. They're going to be a high-powered team this year in the NFL, looking to get back to the playoffs, looking to win and advance in the playoffs. So Saquon Barkley is going to be a huge part of that. He is their best offensive player and playmaker, and because of that, it's going to go through him. He's going to get lots of work receiving and rushing, so expect him to be a high-volume fantasy scorer this year, as well as Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb honestly has the highest ceiling of almost any running back on this list right now because Kareem Hunt is not there, because he's going to be in an offense where he's going to be utilized a lot, even in the receiving game potentially. Now you have a viable quarterback option at Deshaun Watson. It will make defenses a little bit more on their toes when they're trying to decide who they're going to guard or how they're going to guard. And especially with Nick Chubb, I mean,
he's so good.
He's so
freaking
good. And I know that doesn't help you unless it's for fantasy purposes.
You just
he
gotta
scores a
watch
lot
him.
of fantasy points.
Yeah.
And if he adds receiving upside, watch out. Josh Jacobs is going to be next. Josh Jacobs, I think he's going as like the RB10 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, in some leagues.
It's dumb.
Do not hesitate to draft Josh Jacobs in this range, because Josh Jacobs is going to do dang near the same thing he did last year, because he's playing in dang near the same offense. He's still playing in a Josh McDaniels offense. He's going to be playing with a different quarterback, but honestly a better quarterback, which will help Josh Jacobs. Again, better quarterbacks do help running backs, and better offenses do make for better running backs. And that's the case with Josh Jacobs here as well. Still playing alongside Devontae Adams. They added some weapons as well. And then Derrick Henry. Clearly a unicorn, clearly one of a kind. He's still clearly King Henry, and I hate saying that as a Colts fan, but expect him to produce at probably even a higher level than this. He has RB1 upside still. In PPR leagues, maybe not, because he rarely gets, receiving touchdowns, similar to Nick Chubb. However, he's on the ground. He's going to continue to produce, and they're going to continue to run that offense through him. So,
yep. In the C tier, dropping down to the C tier here, we're going to have Joe Mixon. And look, this is a guy that we were telling you to buy before he restructured his contract with Cincinnati, and then he did, and we expected him to skyrocket in value. We were like, dang it. And he really hasn't that much. And I don't really understand why. Like, why is he not being treated like a running back one? I mean, he was just, running back like 5 last year.
He's very consistent.
Super consistent, and in a great situation. Honestly, you'd think like, well, a running back playing in an elite level offense with T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow, an elite level passer, like, is Joe Mixon really going to get his own? Yeah. I mean, Joe Mixon is honestly the reason they can have such an elite passing game, because defenses have to worry about Joe Mixon. So really helps him out. He's going to be a super safe guy here. I don't think he's slowing down at all. He's shown no signs of regression. Najee Harris up next. Look, we're a believer in Najee Harris this season. We don't think he's the most efficient back. We don't think he's the best running back, but he is going to be better than he was last year. He was a huge disappointment, and we're excited to see what he can do this season in an improved offense where Kenny Pickett's going to get better. Aaron Jones, again, another elite passing down back where he doesn't have to have a bunch of snap share and a bunch of opportunity to get his own. And with Jordan Love as essentially a rookie quarterback this season, he's gonna utilize Aaron Jones a lot. Tony Pollard at the tail end of this tier, you have to admit in fantasy that he does have a pretty nice floor, and he I mean,
whatever.
He does have some receiving upside, so in PPR he is going to be up a little bit more than in half PPR, but he's going to be on the tail end of this tier because he hasn't proven that he can take on a bell cow workload, because he hasn't done it for the 4 seasons that he's been in the NFL. He's been at his best playing with Ezekiel Elliott, who was more of the bruiser and was getting a lot of the goal line touches. So that's our thing with Pollard.
Moving down to the D tier, we're going to start with Jahmyr Gibbs. A lot of people are going to say this is high because Jahmyr Gibbs is a rookie. Look, Alvin Kamara and CMC in their rookie years didn't even register 30% of their team's rushing attempts, and they still finished as the RB3 and the RB9. So Jahmyr Gibbs, to say he doesn't have RB1 upside and actually to be ranked as not to be ranked as an RB1 is pretty silly. Actually, Jahmyr Gibbs, especially in PPR leagues, because of the receiving upside, because of the route tree, because of the usage that he's going to draw, he is not DeAndre Swift. He will not be used like DeAndre Swift. Do not worry about Jahmyr Gibbs. He's going to be an elite fantasy scorer this year. Breece Hall obviously has to move down in these rankings a little bit because of the Dalvin Cook signing. Breece is probably going to see a little bit of a decreased fantasy output, especially early in the year. However, Breece Hall does still possess later in the year upside, and remember, that's when you win fantasy leagues, is later in the year. And Breece Hall, do not forget how good he is. So if he comes back, he could absolutely get enough touches to be hyper productive in fantasy, especially as he recovers from the ACL. Kenneth Walker, still not exactly healthy in training camp yet. You also have Zach Charbonnet there. Kenneth Walker would be higher on this list had it not been for them drafting Zach Charbonnet. You have to take that into account. Kenneth Walker still has a very high breakaway run rate, is still going to rip off big plays that are going to get you lots of fantasy points, so it does make him a good pick. He does not offer a lot of PPR upside, though, so that is the one red flag with drafting Kenneth Walker in PPR leagues if you're playing in that scoring. Ramondre Stevenson is going to be next. And the same thing, Ramondre had to get bumped down a little bit, just a little bit, because of Ezekiel Elliott. And if you think that Ramondre shouldn't have moved because of Ezekiel Elliott, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott is going to take some red zone carries away from... they did not bring Ezekiel Elliott in and start posting it all over their social media to not use Ezekiel Elliott, okay? But Ramondre Stevenson, probably going to be the PPR back. He's not, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott wasn't even the PPR back in Dallas, so why would he do that in New England? And because of that, Ramondre still has significant value in PPR leagues, and he's going to score at least some points. Same as Etienne. Travis Etienne is going to be next. And look, Travis Etienne, we've been lower on him, so we understand, like... Even though we are being conservative with Travis Etienne, he still does have a very high ceiling because he is playing next to Trevor Lawrence, and he's going to be playing in a very high-powered offense. He still does have lots of PPR upside, so we will acknowledge that. We're going to rank him here for now. James Conner is going to be next, and James Conner, do not forget, every freaking year in every scoring setting, I mean, James Conner, look at what he did after Kyler got hurt last year. He was a top 8 running back in fantasy football. Expect a very high producing season from James Conner this year. Do not be surprised when he finishes as anywhere from the RB1 to the RB4.
If you want to take him over ETN, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
I wouldn't. He is so undervalued. You should be drafting him.
He doesn't even require efficiency. Yeah, he's playing with a bad offensive line. I don't care. He gets
This is conservative for him too. Like,
oh yeah,
draft him
very
everywhere.
Conservative.
Draft him everywhere.
Super. In the F tier, we're gonna have Miles Sanders at the top. I mean, how you've got to be comfortable with his situation.
Yes.
The running back 2 in Carolina is Chuba Hubbard, who has shown what he does with significant workload when CMC was down, and that's nothing. And look, he's I'm really excited to see what he can do this season. He played well with the Eagles last year, and yes, that was with a better offensive line. But look, there's less mouths to feed, way less mouths to feed in Carolina, and Bryce Young is going to need to utilize his running backs. They're going to want to take some work off of his plate for sure as he develops. Dameon Pierce playing in probably not very good offense this year, and look, I thought he was going to skyrocket in value going into this season because of what he did as a rookie, and he hasn't really, honestly. He's actually fallen, and I really like his price. He's going to be a high volume guy, again, in an offense that isn't very good, but you're not expecting incredible efficiency from him. You're just expecting volume. And actually, as a bonus, he was efficient last year. So I'm a big fan of where he is going, pretty much low RB2 range. DeAndre Swift, we know the story. The most efficient passing down back in the NFL when he's playing, when he's healthy. So really the big question is, when's he going to be on the field and when's he going to be consistently healthy? He's got to answer those questions, but when he's playing in the Eagles offense with the best offensive line, like, I'm super excited about that situation. He's not going to get 20 to 30% snap share. So Dalvin Cook next. Look, I love Dalvin Cook's situation. Dalvin Cook is going to be Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones in the Jets offense. And look, cool. You could be worried about Breece Hall and what he's going to take away from Dalvin, but I'm not that concerned because Dalvin's going to be the primary receiving back. As a runner, he was less efficient last year, and it's kind of been a decline. I'm not expecting much from him in the run game. I care about PPR. I care about points per reception, and Dalvin could absolutely be elite from that standpoint this season, especially when you're looking at the Jets offensive line, which is really rough, looking really bad right now. And Rodgers may have to get rid of the ball quickly, and Dalvin's going to be that guy. J.K. Dobbins going to be next. Look, he's finally practicing at camp. I don't think he's really holding out anymore because he knows he's not going to get paid when he's been injured his entire career. He was tearing it up on the field when he was limping last season. So I'm honestly hoping, we're holding out hope one more season. I think the upside with J.K. Dobbins and the Ravens offense is still high if he can just play. Please, Dobbins, just play, because you are so good when you're playing, even when you're 50%, and you could actually be 100% this year. Javonte Williams coming off of a season where he shredded his knee, and he's already starting in preseason games. Like, the Broncos are even surprised. They're like, what the actual heck? This is something that we didn't see from J.K. Dobbins. You've got to be excited about Javonte's upside this season. Good draft
right now in fantasy.
Very good draft. Very good pick. I mean, he took us by surprise. I was low on him.
I just now started drafting him.
I've caved. Like, I'm taking him where he is at price.
I've caved too as well.
Yeah.
So dropping down to the G tier here, our final tier is going to feature first Alexander Mattison. Everybody wants to point to Alexander Mattison when he plays. He scores 20 or more. Yeah, we get it. Alexander Mattison wasn't very efficient last year when he was the bell cow in the very limited sample size we saw. He's not going to be this year as well. He's nothing special as a talent. And honestly, they're going to look to pass the ball a lot in Minnesota. So do not be surprised and also don't be surprised when Alexander Madison's not a true bell cow, because he's not a bell cow. And they're going to use Ty Chandler, and they're going to use, whoever else is in that backfield.
Dwayne McBride. Don't sleep on Dwayne McBride.
There you go. Cam Akers is going to be next. We're lower on Cam Akers than the consensus. However, Cam Akers is a running back in a bad offense. And yes, you could make that argument for some of the guys above him, but he is a very unproven running back who's been very inconsistent and almost got cut last year and in a bad offense.
But didn't you see what he did at the end of last season? Yeah, didn't you see what the Rams did at the end of last season? Yeah. Baker sucked, and they were playing for absolutely nothing.
I don't really, you can't really convince me to take Akers in fantasy leagues right now. Alvin Kamara is next. Alvin Kamara, you could take him higher than this, honestly. He's a good value here. And he's going to probably be fairly efficient this year because he is going to have some guys around him now. And that's going to help his situation. Obviously, Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller are both able to take some carries away on the ground.
Maybe even Kareem Hunt. At that point, I'm terrified of Kamara, and that's why he's so low.
At that point, I'm not even taking any Saints running back. So be careful if they sign another one. Zach Charbonnet could be higher on this list because he is going to be the PPR back in Seattle. He could be higher on this list. Zach Charbonnet, do not sleep on him. He could be productive this year. He's going to be featured as a third down back. He's going to be better in pass pro. He's going to be better on third down passing downs than Kenneth Walker, and that's just going to be how it is. It could lead to a lot of fantasy points. We'll see. Rashad White, a lot of people are going to be higher on Rashad White than us. However, Rashad White, again, is going to be one of the worst offenses in the entire NFL. He's not going to be with Tom Brady, so don't expect the check down rate to remain the same as well. So we're gonna temper our expectations a little bit with Rashad White, relative to the consensus. And then Isaiah Pacheco, same thing. He's in a backfield we don't want to touch because we don't know. Will it be CEH? Will it be Pacheco? Will it be Deneric Prince? Who knows? but we don't care because we're not touching them. So that's going to round it out. Those are the top 30 running backs in fantasy football. Do us a huge favor. Drop a like on the video if you made it this far, and make sure you're subscribed if you play fantasy football. Head over to flockfantasy.com/domain if you want all of our exclusive content and our full 2023 fantasy football rankings. We appreciate you watching. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.